do it for the soul. Baby, take it all. I'm only in this game for the rock and roll. Baby, take it all. I don't do it for the money, I do it for the soul. Baby, take it all. I'm only in this game for the rock and roll.
What's up guys, welcome to Echo Productions. I'm Silas Willie, and today I'm going to be comparing the camera on my brand new iPhone XR to my workhorse, for YouTube videos at least, the Panasonic Lumix G7. Anyway, before I say anything else, I want you guys to see the difference between the two cameras for yourselves. Here it is. Okay, so right away I was impressed by the XR's camera. Obviously it wasn't better than my G7, so if you were hoping for that, well, I'm sorry. Dynamic range has always been a huge downside to mobile cameras, but the dynamic range on the XR is actually insane. It blew my mind. I knew it was supposed to be better, but honestly I wasn't expecting it to be as good as this. Here's a shot that really tests the dynamic range. The sun is coming up over these vines, and I've set my G7 and the XR side by side. And as you can see, the XR's range blows the G7 out of the water. Apple Smart HDR is just that, smart. Next up is OIS, which is actually a win for the iPhone. It's not gimbal-like stabilization like the new GoPro Hero 7, but it's almost like I've already applied warp stabilizing. Next, let's take a look at the low-light capabilities of each camera. Okay, so again, the G7 wins, but not by much. The XR is much better than any other phone I've ever tested in low light. The XR now has a larger sensor than ever before, so you get a lot more light without turning your ISO up too high. And it still produced a very good image. It was better than most entry-level DSLRs for sure, and definitely usable. The G7, of course, was very clean and retained all of its sharpness, but neither of them are perfect low light cameras anyway. As far as photos in low light, I was definitely surprised. So again, the G7 is still a bit better, but the XR's pictures actually turned out really good. As far as actual specs, the iPhone wins, on paper at least. You can record in 4K 60fps on the XR, which I can't do on my G7. You can also record 240 FPS in 1080p Full HD, which is just insane. While the XR can record in 4K at 60 FPS, it still doesn't look better than my G7. It may be a bit sharper, but a lot of that is just the internal processing of the iPhone. It's not cleaner per se. And that's because the bitrate still isn't there. When I'm recording in 4K on my G7, I'm recording at 100 megabytes a second, which is great, but the 4K on the iPhone is about 50 megabytes a second, which still isn't bad, but it's just not the same. Finally, before we're done, let's take a look at the difference in photo quality. Okay, so wow. The G7 is always going to be better than a single lens smartphone for photography, but the XR was great. The wide angle lens for portrait mode is a bit off-putting, but it works really well anyway. And the pictures in general look great. There's a lot of the detail, and the dynamic range is still just blowing my mind. Tyler Stallman has a great video on that goes more in depth on this if you're interested in learning more. It's up there. Anyway, let's take one last second to talk about the screen. Apple has been getting a lot of grief lately about the screen. People are complaining about it not being full HD and it only being an LCD, not an OLED screen. But guys, it's not bad at all. I have 20/10 vision and it doesn't bother me at all. So if it doesn't bother me, it shouldn't bother you. Anyway, it's nice to be able to whip out my phone and take great pictures and video in a pinch. But will I be ditching my G7 for an iPhone? No, at least not very often. But it does produce fantastic results for being in a phone, and it actually really impressed me. But that's all I've got for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Anyway, this has been Echo Productions, I'm Silas Willoughby, and I'll see you guys in the next one.